So good afternoon, guys. I did a change to the racing loft. You can see what I cut off. Some of you remember this racing loft had this front aviary with a droppable pin. Not quite a Sputnik, but similar. And the trap was pretty high up. It was basically at the top of this training pin where I've wired it in there temporarily. Trap was up here and it was pretty high, and trying to do the tunnel training with the trap as high as that was a problem. So I wanted to lower the trap. And a lot of you will remember I talked about I used to think carpenters had magic powers, and I didn't do carpentry and I hired this stuff out. So took a sheet of OSB. Well, the first thing was I cut off the aviary. Still got some pieces to cut off up there that need to come off and do some rework up here on the wire. But basically cut the aviary off. Moved the birds out first, of course. Took the trap out, cut the aviary off. And then I took a single sheet of OSB, and with the skill saw, I plunge cut a space for the trap. It's not quite perfect. Kind of a difficult thing to do. So it's not perfectly square, but it's close. It's kind of butchered back in there, as you can see, but it's close. I did pretty good on most of the spots, apart from that one, which I don't know if I mismeasured or miscut or what I did. So the little training cage is just something I had laying around that happens to fit there at the moment. Keep that trap closed, keep the neighborhood cats out of there. And then I basically went down here and put in this new landing board. And it's pretty simple underneath. You can see the construction. It's just 2x2s and OSB. And I modeled this off of the one that Tom from Little Loft on the Hill uses. I was going to say Little House on the Prairie. But Little Loft on the Hill uses. Pretty much copied his design because I also copied his tunnel. And that will allow me to use the tunnel platform back and forth here and get these guys trained up. Some of these guys are flying on their own, but I lost one to Brent hen a couple weeks ago, and I don't want to go through that again, so I want to really run them through the tunnel back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I've been using it mostly for the rovers at the moment. The number 2 kit, first batch of young birds for 2023, they're up and flying around for the first time today. They're just kind of racing around as they want. I'm not going to push them, make them fly or anything. They're just kind of all over the place up here on their own. So I didn't do anything. Hey, get off of there. So I didn't do anything to the inside of the loft yet. Well, with the exception of this thing was not framed properly. It had no upright framing like you would normally see in most lofts or most buildings. You'll remember this was a hired build, and he did things kind of nuts. So I had to go in and I had to frame some of this, basically just to attach the landing board in, provide a little bit of support. They're not perfect cuts because obviously I've had to slot them in, so there's a little bit of a gap up there, but it suits what it's needed. And I'm actually going to make some more changes in here. I think I'm going to change to angled box perches in here. And I could probably get about 40. I need to put some ventilation up in the top of the roof, and I really need to frame these walls in better. Other thing that's going to change, the door is an abomination. And so is the roof. And all of this that I had hired done is basically starting to fail. There's actually daylight. You can't see it right now, but you can see that crack in that piece of plywood up there. It's gone. It's too thin. It's just cheap stuff my hired help did. You can only see one support beam back there holding the whole roof up. That's it. There's no support. So I'm going to basically re-side everything, rebuild the door, rebuild the perches, frame the walls, and do all that. But for the moment, it's functional the way I need it to be. I mean, he did a really weirdo job on the floor. You can see that he actually built the uprights first and basically cut the piece of plywood and slotted it into the corners right down there. Plus there's a gap back there, which I can't do much about that. I'm going to leave that the way it is. I'll maybe fill it full of some foam. I haven't had any mice or anything come in here because of that, but eventually that will happen. A rat could actually get it through that, or maybe even a weasel possibly get it through that, and I don't want that to happen. So I need to do something with that. Put some metal flashing under there and maybe foam it closed. Maybe the same thing back here along the back wall. It's not, that's actually tight, but there's kind of a weirdo gap there just because of the way he did things. You can see that it's basically sitting on this side of the 2x4. So I need to go back there and frame and kind of fill a lot of these gaps in and do all that. But that is what's going on right now. Getting this racing loft in order. Make a lot of changes here. The door is a big deal. One of the birds I lost in the race team is a squeaker. It just shot out the door. That's one of the big complaints I have with hired carpenters of the doors. So that is it, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to build another kit loft here. I'm starting to work on the next, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. It's about 95 degrees out here, so it is warm. But tune in next time. We'll either show something new or more racing homers or something. But be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe. See you all later. Keep them flying out there, guys.